this is my IB research presentation on Kyojin farce. So some of the origins of Kyojin farce, it was the first type of traditional Japanese theater that was aimed for more of the servant class. They wanted to relieve the drama of all the traditional Japanese theater, like demons and death, the fun, really fun, dark stuff. And actually, its kind of counterpart of traditional Japanese theater was called the no dramas. And traditionally, the Kyojin farce was performed in between two or three no drama plays in order to kind of heighten that effect of, okay, we just watched this play about demons, and so let's have a farmer and some mushrooms happen now. Yeah. So actually, it kind of derives from two other types of theater. Kabuki is a traditional Japanese dance theater, and then it also derived from Sarugaku. It was kind of the predecessor to Kyojin farce, and it kind of started to highlight that effect of more of the servant class, kind of their common everyday struggles, but Kyojin farce was the one that really pushed it to relieve that drama. And actually its origins even before that was actually from a sun goddess, and the interesting part about that is that the world was dark before there was music and theater and other arts, and then one day she heard this beautiful music and she heard people laughing and theater, so she came up and brought the sun with her, and it kind of illuminates that effect of like lightening the tension between the drama of everyday life, and you can kind of put that aside with your comedy. And so yes, it's meant to be a parody of the no plays, and but they also kind of used some of the aspects of no plays, and they tweaked them to make them funnier. Like in no plays, they had very refined, deliberate movements, but in Kyojin, it's kind of big and everywhere, and it's different. So next up, please. So again, the purpose was to give the servant class more of a time to see, hey, look, on my stage, that's my struggles. It's not just everyone faces death, but it's not it gives them a time that they can not think about that, and they can think about kind of their everyday life in a more comedic way. So the purpose of Kyojin farce was to give the servant class a place to go watch their struggles on stage in a comedic way. So interestingly enough, similar to Commedia dell'arte, in Italy, they have stock characters. So some of the stock characters, they're based upon everyday life people you would encounter. So there's usually a master and his two servants, and the two servants were often very, they didn't know how to do much right, and he would rely on them, but at the same time, he would often have to do everything himself because they really couldn't grasp the concept of what they were asked to do. And they almost always had a farmer. I know that sometimes the servants could be the farmer, but usually you had another farmer as a separate person. And you also had a priest or another religious figure who's important, in traditional Japanese culture. And so going off the convention that I am studying in Kyojin was the convention of gesture, and often these stock characters could use specific gestures that often were specific to them. So, the religious figures or any other priest-like character would often, use their hands a lot. They would also have prayer beads that they would spin around and twirl around, kind of spreading that religion everywhere. And servants often vigorously fan their masters, which is also a very important prop to Kyojin farce, was the fan, similar again, to restoration comedy, which I will be talking about later in my presentation. Next slide, please. So I have a moment of theater. It's from kusabira, which also means mushrooms in Japanese, right? The English translation. So what basically the play is about is that a farmer is, sitting in his house one day and all these little mushrooms start popping up everywhere and, they're not supposed to grow in a house. So he starts freaking out. And, he needs to go find a priest so the priest can pray away all these mushrooms. So he goes and he finds a priest. And, the priest was like, of course, I'll help you. So the priest comes and in my mode of theater, he's trying to pray away all these little mushrooms. And so I'm starting there with the priest, he sees all these mushrooms and he's going to try to pray them away. So I begin. There are truly a lot of them. There are princess, boar's mouth, and fragrant shimji mushrooms. But it always is the case when something is about to be obliterated, all of its manifestations appear at once. For occasions such as this, there is a special secret sign known as the sign of the eggplant. I will invoke the sign of the eggplant and pray one more time. Among which is the wondrous sign of the eggplant. I will now invoke the sign of the eggplant one final time and pray. Boron, 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 boron. And then I'll be, okay, I end with that. And so actually after he keeps praying and praying, more little mushrooms appear everywhere, so it did not work in the slightest sense. All these little mushrooms appear, and then, the farmer and the priest, terrified, run outside as fast as they possibly could, and they see a giant demon mushroom, kind of going back up on the parody of the No plays, No plays have the demon, but this one's a demon mushroom, because why not? So that was the mushroom, piece of theater. So how did I practically practice that convention? So one of the main ways that I did that was I went at home and in front of the mirror I would practice that, and sometimes I would film it in front of a mirror, but it doesn't always work backwards, which I found out the hard way. But so then I would film that, and then I would go back and watch that and see exactly, how can I enhance the gesture here, because that's really what I want to focus on. Does the gesture not work here? What can I do there? And I also was able, one of the main ways that helps me is that I research, I found a couple examples online of this specific moment of theater, and I was able to see how other actors did that, and I watched it, and at first I copied them, and then I kind of adapted it into my own way to see what would work for me and what would work for this specific presentation. Okay, so then I'm also going to connect this to another theater tradition, specifically restoration comedy. So restoration comedy was popular in France and in England, and it was kind of a parody of the.
Sorry.
You can go to the next slide. The reflection. There's no pictures.
Oh, okay.
So it was meant to kind of like satire the upper class, and they often used, exaggerated movements, and the fan was very important. Same as in Kyojin farce, and kind of that idea of it's like a juxtaposition of in the way that they kind of let the lower servant class get their comedy in for the day. Kyojin specifically focused on them, but the restoration comedy, they use satires of the upper class to do it, so it's a different way, but it's still kind of gave them their time to, you know, enjoy theater that kind of gave them a relief from what they were doing in their everyday life. So, you know, it's really interesting to compare how, even though their purpose was the same, the different ways in which they did it to achieve the same end goal. So that was my presentation on keyword force.